Blacks in Technology.
Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology.
Good evening, good afternoon, good wherever you are. Good day. Welcome to the 63rd episode of the Blacks in Technology Big Tech Talk podcast. I am your host for this evening, Greg Greenlee. Your co-host is actually not here right now, but hopefully she'll join soon. If you're listening in right now, you can check us out at www.blacksintechnology.net. We are also on the Twitters at Black in Technology, and that's BLKINTECHNOLOGY. You can also check us out on Facebook, and that's facebook.com/Blacks in Technology. We're also on LinkedIn, so that's check us out on LinkedIn. We have a Blacks in Technology group there. If you're listening to this on Spreaker, which I'm pretty sure you are, there is actually a chat session on Spreaker. Where is that chat? There's a chat. Let me see. Actually, I can't find it. I'll find it, and I'll let everyone know here in a few minutes. So, again, my name is Greg Greenlee. I'm your host for this evening. Who is Blacks in Technology? We're a tech-focused community and media organization focused on increasing diversity in technology. Blacks in Technology's mission is to increase visibility, participation, and change the perception of people of African descent in technology through community-focused activities, events, and media. Blacks in Technology is stopping the divide by establishing a blueprint of world-class technical excellence and innovation by providing resources, guidance, and issuing a challenge to our members to surpass the high mark and establish new standards of global innovation via mind-sharing and collaboration efforts. So this always focuses on forming new partnerships and opportunities to assist our members with their continued professional growth and development. So if you want to partner with us, send us an email to partnerships@blacksintechnology.net. Any general inquiries, you can send an email to info@blacksintechnology.net. I do want to mention our jobs board that we implemented probably about a month ago. There are some jobs up there, some jobs from Puppet. I think University of North Carolina actually are posting jobs up there now. And Blacks in Technology is actually looking for WordPress developers. So if you are a WordPress developer and you want to help out Blacks in Technology, we are definitely needing someone to help us out with that. So go to the site, click on jobs, look at the job postings there. If you want to go out for the WordPress developer one, click on that, send us your resume, and we'll take a look at it. We'll get back with you. What else is going on? Founders Hour is going down next week. That is going to be Wednesday. I don't know what date Wednesday is, but Wednesday, so today is the 9th, and it'll be the 15th. So the 15th, we are having Founders Hour again. So check us out. Tune in next week at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Time. So what's going on? So the topic of today's show is going to be diversity or innovation and diversity at tech conferences. And with us, joining us tonight is Mary Scotton. A little bit about Mary. Mary has over 20 years of software development experience. She has a passion for enabling non-programmers to build powerful business applications and a drive to increase diversity and inclusion in the tech workforce. Mary was one of the early members of the platform product management team at Salesforce. While in that role, she designed the core features that involved the platform from a simple customization tool for the CRM product into one of the leading cloud platforms in the industry. She also holds several patents for inventions related to SaaS application platforms. She works in the middle of New Jersey, likes to hang out at New York City developer meetups. So I want to welcome Mary Scotton to the show tonight, to the podcast. Thanks, Mary, for joining us this evening.
Thanks so much, Greg, for having me.
Oh, no problem. Glad to have you. So we're going to talk about diversity at tech conferences, innovation and diversity at tech conferences. And we actually touched a little bit on this a few podcasts ago. We had Brian Smith where we talked about diversity, more along the diversity side of it. Brian has actually organized or helped to organize a Linux and open source conference down in Orlando called FaucetCon. So we talked to him about that, and then we actually had Alex, I can't remember Alex's last name, but from Strange Loop. We had Nigel Kirsten on here from Puppet Labs. We talked a little bit about DevOps, a little bit about PuppetCom, but we also touched on diversity at those conferences as well. So we're going to actually get back into that dialogue and talk more about why innovation, why diversity at tech conferences are important. The great thing about it is Mary just attended Focus 100 conference up in New York. So she's going to talk a little bit about that, give us her perspective on that as well. So our first question to Mary is give us your background in tech. Tell us a little bit about how you got into technology.
All right. Well, I have been in technology for a little while now, more than 20 years. And so when I started, there was no internet and there was no degree in this or that. I went to a liberal arts college in New Jersey and actually majored in math with a computer science emphasis, which meant I learned how to program in Pascal, which no one ever uses for anything. And I just understood the programming concepts. And, and I don't know, I feel like I've always been good at math. My parents are both math-oriented. My dad's an accountant, and my mom is a math teacher, 7th grade math for a lot of years. And so I feel like I grew up, with that bent. And so it's what I decided to study. And then when I came out of college, there was this job that someone, at the job fair said, you could be a computer consultant. And I said, well, what do they do? And I didn't really understand what they did, but I went and did it because it paid twice as much as teaching. And so I thought, well, I could go back to teaching if I need to. So I took this job, and what they did is something I wonder if they still do now, which is they took us for 6 weeks and they trained us to be consultants, so to implement enterprise business software. I learned how to code in COBOL. I learned how to dress. I learned to shine my shoes. Right? I learned how to look sharp and go and have somebody, bill lots of money for me to show up. And so, I feel like one of the things that we were talking about, I don't know if I read it or if it was at Focus 100, but it was about, it was at Focus 100. It was about we don't invest in training anymore. We don't take the time. We want somebody who's already trained. If we feel like if we do train them, they're just going to leave anyway. So when I started, that 6-week or 8-week investment that all of the consulting companies did really paid off for them because people did stay. And so I think that was identified at the conference as a gap. Now that's making it harder for folks who are mid-career who want to jump into tech to find a company. That's where they start as a junior programmer and be supported and trained through. So anyways, I did consulting for 6 or 7 or 8 years, and then did the whole enterprise software development life cycle, all the way from gathering requirements to coding it, designing it and coding it and testing it, and then also training. And I found that I liked all of those parts. I liked the design the best. And so I ended up doing functional design at PeopleSoft for 7 years, and that brought me out to California. So I grew up in New Jersey, and PeopleSoft brought me out to beautiful Pleasanton, California, and which quickly turned into living in Oakland, California. And so I lived in Oakland for 12 years, working at PeopleSoft and then at Salesforce.com, and doing functional design, which turned into product management, which is a fantastic job because you get to invent new things. That's where the patents come from. And, design things that make customers happy and work with developers and development teams to build something that didn't exist before. And so that's sort of my arc. And now at Salesforce, I'm a developer evangelist. And that means that I am responsible for training and enabling our developer community. So whatever our developers and Salesforce admins need to be successful, that's what I'm out there doing. And that looks a lot like going and presenting at conferences or writing blog posts, playing with new technology, and some of it's one-on-one, hanging out with a customer and kind of talking them through or helping them out and helping them get started. And one of the things that we're responsible for is the experience that will happen next week, very, very soon, at our customer conference, Dreamforce. So that's a big, big part of my job. The last 3 months, I would say, have been focused on what's going to happen at Dreamforce in the developer zone, what content are we going to be delivering in the sessions. There are 225 sessions, and we are responsible for curating those, essentially, and helping the speakers, through the process and dry runs and the slides and everything. So make sure that is really world-class content, and it's a really fun part of the job. It's going to be a really fun week. So,
wow. Sounds like you've worn quite a few hats while at Salesforce. Which one of those have you enjoyed the most out of those positions?
I thought product management was my dream job, and I had done that for 15 years total between the two companies. But developer evangelism might actually be my real dream job because I get to do all the fun parts of product management. I get to do the outbound and the helping people and explaining new technology and educating. You have no deadlines, not the same deadlines, you have different deadlines. But I really loved product management, and now I feel like I realize that I can help other people get into product management, because you can wander into product management from a number of different directions. So I've met a number of developers who are interested, quality engineers who are interested. So I do a lot of mentoring of, hey, this is what it means, what it looks like to be a product manager. And I also have gone back to my university, Drew University in New Jersey, and talked about the role of a product manager. And it's not something people talk about when they talk about technology, but it's actually a really fantastic job. So if anyone wants to talk about that, let me know. But
excellent. I would definitely, because, we have quite a few, we have over 1,400 members on our site, and they're, pretty much nationwide. So, every so often there's somebody who comes to the site that's kind of new to technology and always kind of looking at, what's the best career path for them in technology. Haven't come across a lot of people looking at product management, but I think that, being able to speak on it to understand a little bit more about what's involved with product management, because when people think about product management, they think more of a managerial aspect of it as opposed to, more of the technical side of it. And that sounds like it's not entirely true. So, we'd definitely like to maybe even have you on a podcast again just to talk about that aspect of it and what is all is entailed in product management. But let me go back and you spoke on something about training, about some of your early years at one of your companies and how they kind of they took you, they trained you, but they trained you more, on other aspects of the job besides just the technical part, such as, how to dress and how to present yourself and things like that. And it's interesting because I've had this discussion with members of BIT before, one individual in particular, and, they are more or less pretty much are in agreement with you as far as, companies, they don't take people, they don't groom them like they used to. And they don't train people like they used to. They don't have like this type of apprenticeship. When people hire people nowadays, they hire you to do this job, and you need to come in the door doing this job, as opposed to let's take you from here to there. What are your thoughts on? I know you just attended Focus 100, and they were speaking on that. What are your thoughts on, what were some of the things said around, like, maybe how do we get back to this thing of training, or how do we show the benefits of it in your company atmosphere?
The way it was presented.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry, that's me. It's my thoughtful pose. I'm looking at the ceiling, thinking.
Okay.
So the way they talked about it, which I think I agree with. I wish I could remember who was talking about it. I'll look that up actually while we're talking. Was that the value is then you have a loyal employee, and I think that's the question. The question is, or the reason I think that it declined was, people used to stay at a company for 25 years, get that gold watch, 50, whatever, 30 years, that's how things were. My dad worked at the same company his entire career. And my mom, taught at the same school for most of her career. And so I'm a lifer. I don't go to a company, I'm all in, and I didn't job jump when, the first tech bubble or the second tech bubble or, go to the startup. I'm kind of a lifer. But I think that's not true for everybody. And I think because within tech, there's always so much happening that's new, or, you can leave your steady job and go to a startup, and that's very exciting. I think there is a lot of turnover in that way. And companies have to work hard to build loyalty and to make it a place where you'd want to spend 7, 8, 9. I'm going on 9 years now at Salesforce, and I don't intend to work anywhere else. And so, to build that kind of loyalty, the argument was that if you do get people who are, especially, mid-career or non-traditional backgrounds, so I haven't been to college, but I went to a developer boot camp. And so I'm eager, I want to do this. This is important to me. I see this as a really great career. If I can start in your company and you're willing to invest in me, then I will be loyal to you and I will stay. And I think we have to, make that case in a stronger way, maybe show some of, kind of bring visibility to those times. I read an article about a company in like the South-ish where depressed community, people on jobs, and they opened a factory and basically said, whoever needs a job, knock on the door and we'll train you. And so they're doing something else in their life, ended up coming to this company, and, all sorts of ages, all sorts of backgrounds, and because the company was very clear, I'm going to, come on in and we'll put you through this program and we'll train you. They, as a company full of very, very loyal employees. And I thought that was a great business case for, this investment in the training. And you can take any smart person off the street, basically, and put them into different jobs. And, so I feel like that's where we need to be, where we're seeing the value of that kind of loyalty and that investment.
Yeah, I agree. And and just to add to that, I think there's also a stigma as well, especially within the tech community, that if you're staying at a job for like more than 5 years, then there's something wrong with you, right? Like you should be thinking about the next, best thing, and staying at a job for either, getting out and starting your own company or startup or whatever, or getting into something bigger and better. But if you're at this company for, 5 years, and you're not doing something.
9 years? 9 years? You think if I was for 9 years, that's not a very good employee? Is that what you're saying, Greg?
No, I'm just saying.
I don't mean to interrupt. No, really. No, go ahead.
No, but there is a stigma out there in the tech world. I mean, if you look at some of the resumes, and I've seen some, people are jumping from job to job every 2 or 3 years, and they're not sticking around. So, that's just kind of what I noticed. That makes a lot of sense. So if I was running a business, I wouldn't want to spend a lot of money training those people. And I wonder if those people have a different profile, different demographics, or if that is how it is in tech. I don't know. And so again, I feel like I'm coming from a different place. I'm not I just out of college or 10 years out of college, and so to me the consistency and the stability is important. I've had kids for the past 19 years. It's
to me, the stability is really important. But I do think, if I was running a company, I would want to make sure that people had opportunities that felt like they had gone to another company. And so, within the Salesforce engineering team, when I first started, it was not encouraged for you to leave a team to go to another team. And then I would say about a year or two in, people were leaving. Right? So we said, so they're going to leave, right, to go to another company, or we could have an open policy. And so we started something called Open Opportunity Market, and we had like job fairs. So every release, we have 3 releases a year. Every release, if I was a product manager, I could go and essentially pitch my product area and say, hey, come and work with me. I'm building point-and-click tools that allow non-programmers to build applications. Do you want to join me? Here's my next project. Ooh, here's a picture of it. Would you like to build it? So everybody, was vying for this talent that was already in our pool. And that allowed people to then gravitate towards things that interest them and they were passionate about. We even had a point where people built a team because they had an idea, and so 3 people got together and built out that idea. And that team was fantastically productive because they were passionate about that. They had chosen that job. No one said to them, you're going to work on this team. They had chosen that team. And so that dynamic, I think, allows for both things, job jumping, but within the same company. And I think that's a way to make that work. So we've had people, our engineers who are brilliant have stayed for years and years and years, 10 years, right? Which, because they can then work on the things when they start to burn out on one area, there's something else to work on. And so I think that's super important to try to meet that need.
Yeah, that's actually a really good, I guess a really good take, a really good way to do it. So let's get into what this podcast is about, innovation and diversity at tech conferences, and it's really near and dear to my heart, and also kind of what Blacks in Technology is all about. Recently, we partnered with Puppet Labs. We've also been partnering with a number of different organizations in order to help more underrepresented people get to these tech conferences. Me personally, I think that these tech conferences are where it's at. That's where knowledge is at. It's where you get a lot of knowledgeable people in one area at one time, and you can pick people's brains. You can listen to extraordinary talks about in-depth technology. Some stuff that that is cutting edge. Some stuff is some of the emerging technologies that are happening in our industry, and some of the stuff is just what's going on right now in technology, what some of these bigger companies are using, and some of the trademark secrets that they implement in their environment. So I've been really focusing on getting these organizations and having them understand why the need of for diversity at their tech conferences is important. We had about 8 to 10 members of Blacks in Technology attend PuppetConf. We recently gave away 3 tickets to DevOps Day Chicago, and some O'Reilly conferences as well. So I wanted to have you on here because talking with Ayori. Unfortunately, she's not here tonight, but I know that you have a passion for and a drive to increase diversity and inclusion in the tech workforce. And so I thought, and I know you're helping to work on Dreamforce as well. So I thought your insight into innovation and diversity at technology conferences would be really insightful. So let's start with innovation or diversity. Which one is more important, or do they feed each other somehow? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because I don't see it as an either or. I feel like if the question is, at a tech conference, should we just be focusing on bringing, only innovators in, or should we be looking at a diverse set of speakers? Like, where are you going with the question? The tech conferences?
Yeah, so exactly. I mean, do you feel that, technology, because I guess, when we hear about, some of these technology conferences and some of the organizers, there's always, and when people start bringing up diversity, one of the things they want to say is, we're trying to get the greatest and the best and the greatest here. This is something, that, if the people want to be here, they should be here. We're just focused on getting the best speakers, the best tech here, the best innovation. So I guess the question is, do you think they should be, focusing solely on just innovation, or do you think it should be focusing on diversity, or should it be a mix, or, like you said, it's not really either or, so.
Okay, so phrased that way, I feel like what happens is people look for innovation inside their circle. And that we each have these blinders on that we're not aware of, that when we go and look for something, then we only see the people who look like us. We only see the people who we are friends with, or we went to college with, or we used to work with. So the circles form, and then people don't even know what's happening in another circle. That's what I've seen, and that's what I think happens. And even in my experience of going to conferences and trying to figure out in my new role as a developer evangelist, I speak at Salesforce conferences, but I also speak at third-party conferences. Well, how do you get invited to a third-party conference? Well, it turns out you probably have to know somebody who is running the third-party conference. That it's sort of like getting a job. It's easier to get that job if there's somebody in the company who can vouch for you. Mary's a great speaker. You totally want to have her here. Mary's a great worker. She's a hard worker. You want her in your company. So without that personal reference, you're just sending in that CFP for the talk, then, you're just another resume. You're just another application. And so I feel like there is this networking that happens. And, I see it at Dreamforce, I see it at other conferences, and I saw it at Focus 100. And so, people know each other, and they are working on projects together. And so I think the key is something that I learned from Leah McGowan-Hare, who you've had on your podcast, and who's a good friend of mine and one of my favorite people, is to diversify your feed. And so if your feed, we talked about this in terms of Twitter feed, who are you following on Twitter, and essentially analogous to who do you spend time with, and what newspapers do you read, or, what sites do you look at, what blogs do you read? And so what's in your vision, what's in your circle? So when I started to diversify my feed and not just follow the people I already knew in the Salesforce community, then I found out that there were lots of things going on, like Focus 100, which would have never come across my feed otherwise. I've started to work on planning for Dreamforce with all of the employee groups internally, and we have a Latino force. So Latino and Latina employees at Salesforce, there's a group around that. And so I started to follow people, Latinos in tech, right? And just, whoa, there are these things going on. There's this, conference, or this startup, incubator, all these circles. And the question is, how do we, diversify our feed, see what's happening in the other circles, and then in planning a conference, you will find the innovation you're looking for outside of your circle when you start to look in those circles. There are people doing amazing things everywhere. It's just a matter of, where you're looking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely. To that point, I've actually seen an uptick in conference organizers. People who are running these events reach out to Blacks in Technology and to try to source speakers from our network, which I think is a great thing. And they're doing the exact thing that you're talking about is, reach beyond, your set of friends and reach beyond that. If you want to bring in, diverse speakers, and with that bring in innovation as well from other cultures, then you have to reach out beyond where you would normally reach in order to bring these people into your fold, so to speak. So yeah, I definitely understand what you're referring to. So what are some of the things that you've been doing to kind of inspire and prompt innovation through diversity in your field?
One of the things I do is related to what we were just talking about, which is call people out if I see a lack of diversity. And I was just looking through my email. I sent a polite email to, I don't know, there was some post on something. It was, these women of this age, whatever, tech something. So I scanned through the whole list. It was like 35 people. And I was like, okay, great. And so they're pretty much all white, except those two. And so I sent a notice and said, that's really interesting. I'm surprised that you weren't able to find, anyone, and the woman who wrote back is like an intern, and she was like, that's a great point. Thanks so much for bringing that up. And again, it's like, I don't know where to look. It was one of those things where it's like, I don't know where to look, right? And so again, the blinders are on, if you're looking at whatever particular media. And so, I think that having, suggesting to people, groups to follow, and I think, Blacks in Technology is a great gathering point. And so I love that you have the job boards now, because that's the next thing. It's like, well, nobody applied to this job, and so you're like, well, where did you post it? So it's that whole thing about crossing over and saying, okay, I'm going to post in places where the people I'm trying to attract might actually be, right? That way that's, I'm looking to have a diverse workforce. I'm running a company that's inclusive. Like, you're welcome here, everyone's welcome here. I feel like, putting that message out. But that's what was the question? It was about what am I doing? So, yes.
Yeah.
So did I mention this conference we're having next week? And so it's called Dreamforce, and 100,000 of our closest friends get together here in downtown San Francisco and talk about all of the facets of Salesforce as a company. And so we have our sales product and our service product and our marketing product, and then we also have our platform. And so within the bigger conference, the developer zone is the tech conference that's happening. So in other parts, there are salespeople and marketing people, and there's a foundation, so all of our nonprofits, like there's a whole bunch of stuff happening. But in the developer zone, second floor, Moscone West, 10,000 or so of our closest friends who are in the developer community are there. And last year, I did a little something where I had first noticed that there weren't that many women in our developer community. So I want to do an event that, brings the women together. We're going to talk about it and see if there's anything that we should be changing or doing to make it more inclusive. So I did a 4-hour Women in Tech Salon at last year's Dreamforce, and we held 3 sessions, and they were well attended and had good feedback. And I was like, okay, I'm focusing on this, women in tech. That's what I want to focus on. And then throughout the year after that, some things happened, and I had this kind of aha moment. I would say around February this year, possibly around the same time that Google and Facebook put out their diversity numbers. And I realized that women were not the only underrepresented group in tech. And so I had to actually have that conscious moment where I realized that. And I can tell you where it was if you want me to. But that realization and those numbers coming out, like 15% starting to look pretty good next to 2%. right? And so that really opened up my scope of internal activism, where I can use my position to increase inclusion in our community and in the broader developer community. And so this year is the first year that at Dreamforce, when we're planning the developer zone, that diversity was a core value of the planning. And we were very conscious about everything. We look to see what are other people doing. Like you said, public labs, like what are other conferences doing that are doing it well? Who's been able to increase the number of women who come to their conference? What types of outreach? What types of activities? What are people doing? And so we took a look through all of that. So everything from, what does your marketing website look like? Is it full of white dudes? Like, is that it? Okay, that's your conference. And so I now have the head of our developer relations group sending me emails with pictures of other people's conferences and your pictures going, look, Mary, only white dudes go to that conference. Like our conference is so much better. And just that awareness throughout the whole team and throughout the whole process of planning a conference. It's complex to plan the conference. And so one of the things I did was do an outreach before the call for papers to encourage women and underrepresented minorities to submit papers. Right? Hey, even if you haven't done this before, our process is really great. We'll take you through it, and please do submit sessions. So we did get a big increase in the number of women who submitted. I don't have the data for in terms of other aspects of diversity, but I did see a few trickle in that were, hey, I saw your Google Hangout, and here's my submission. So we had a whole track essentially of people talking about diversity overtly, right, consciously, and we're having those conversations. Throughout the whole week in the Dev Zone. I've also partnered with the employee groups that we have at Salesforce, and each of them is running a meetup or an activity specifically for their area, and reaching out to the developer community and building that networking, because again, it's those relationships. And so you can network with anyone, but if I give you a place to come together to network with other women or other people of African descent or other Latinos or other people who happen to be gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgendered, then at least that you're safe, right? That you're in a place where everyone understands each other, and it makes the networking easier. So we're creating those spaces, and we're having these conversations so that the broader developer community who might not be thinking about diversity is now not only thinking about it, but being told, hey, here are some things you can do when you go back to the office. Here are the ways that you can help each other out and how we can work together. Here are the ways that you can help the pipeline by supporting, different organizations that are teaching youth the code and running youth hackathons and those types of things. So this year I'm really excited about everything that's happening. I have a whiteboard that has all of it on it, a picture. I was like, wow, look at everything that's happening this year that didn't happen last year. And I have a piece of paper from last year that had the 3 sessions that we did. So it's really exploded, and I see it coming through in all aspects of the conference.
Well, I definitely want to applaud your efforts and Salesforce efforts on bringing about that type of change, because it's definitely needed. And I thought it was real interesting when you were talking about, the whole marketing aspect of it, and, just simply looking at conference, photos and saying, hey, this conference is, all these photos just have, have white guys there. And it's funny because I actually kind of took that same approach when I approached some of these other conference organizers to say, hey, I looked at your photos. I didn't see, many people of color there, if any, at all. Let us help you in dealing with that, right? And helping to bring more people of color to your conference. I mean, and a lot of, most of the conference organizers that I've talked to have been really responsive and helping with that. And one of the other things that you kind of touched on that I thought was really important is now I just forgot it. What was that? Talking about the marketing we were talking about.
Well, do you remember the story I told you? Go ahead.
No, so putting together these spaces and having these spaces for people, so in order for them to feel comfortable, networking with people that look like them, and the reason why I think this is important is because I had a talk with a friend of mine who was a member of Blacks in Technology, and we were actually talking about the gentleman. I can't remember what website he started, but he wrote a book about communities. And he basically said that the best communities are communities that allow you to have these kind of sub-communities inside of them, right? Or within the main community. So, for instance, you'll have let's take Salesforce as a big community, and then these kind of sub-communities are these spaces that you offer to some of these to other groups, so that they can feel comfortable in that space, and also allows them to mingle or connect with other people within that community as a whole. And I thought that was that's very important. I actually talked to some gentlemen at PuppetConf, and he kind of frowned upon that whole notion of having this, this space set aside, because I think PuppetConf did something along the lines of, they had like a women's breakfast, right? And he was saying, he doesn't think that they should be doing that, and he thought that, it's kind of singling people out. And I was like, no, that's you're including them. Like this is something that they're doing to be inclusive, not exclusive. They're not trying to sing a woman out. They're giving them a space. And giving them that space allows them to be included in the whole, in the community as a whole. And I always thought that about, Blacks in Technology as well. Like, this is not just a thing to separate or exclude Black people from technology so we can just be over here huddled alone. This is to include us in the entire ecosystem that is technology. And, bringing some together people in a space allows them to be comfortable, allows them to want to, speak freely about some things they might not be able to speak to the community as a whole. But it gives them that space to operate within. But as a whole, that we are included in the larger community. If any of that makes sense. But I thought that was very
no, that's super interesting, and I have like a whole list of things I want to talk about now. But
okay, go for it.
Is that person that you talk to someone who walks through the world in privilege, right? Like, so I think if you are walking in the world and have never been in a marginalized group, then you might not understand the need for it. And that's possibly how I spent the first 20-some-odd years of my life, just sort of wandering through the world, not really thinking about too much. And when I came out as a lesbian in college, there was this whole sub-community, right? And so, you start to learn about the community, and you go to events for that community. You realize that you are oppressed. You realize your rights are different than other people, and you sort of form this bond that is necessary, and you want to be in a safe space, and you don't feel safe most of the time. Right? So you want to be somewhere where you're with someone who's in your group or someone who's an ally because they've come to the space to be with you. So even when we were planning what we were going to do in the developer zone, so I'm on this call with the heads of all of the different affinity groups at Salesforce. There's 5 groups. And so there's Women in Technology, Bold Force, which is employees of African descent, Latino Force, Pacific Force, and Outforce. And we're talking about having, different events, and should we have one event that's like, let's throw a party. Should we throw a party or a meetup that's you're diverse, come to the meetup, or should we throw a party that's specific for each group? And it was a really healthy, interesting conversation because people were like, well, and I think this was the first point that we were talking about working together and sort of crossing over between our groups. And some people fall into multiple groups. And I think that people see that. It's like, I'm not just one, I want to work together. Anyway, the outsource group has a party, and they always have. And so one of the things that came out of this conversation was, if you're in the outsource group, you move through life. It's hard, right? And not everyone likes gay people, right? It's a big deal. And so you don't want to have a party where you're not sure if the person that you're talking to, doesn't like you because you're gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender. So, you want to go to the party and just have fun. Because it was, sort of this very, sort of a dance of what are we going to do and where should we hang out? And so that's a separate party, right? And we are doing meetups that are separate so that that you're in your collective. And then there's actually a joint event happening between Bold Force and Latino Force, where they're doing this session called Global Mobile. We're having this great panel and breakfast, and really I think that's going to be super engaging. So that's what they decided to do together. So, and then the Women in Tech group has a series of events that are happening on Wednesday with different facets to them. So it's, everybody kind of went their own direction, which was interesting, and to see there's some crossover, and then there's just general support of each other's and promoting each other's events. So long story short, I think it's important that we have our separate spaces, and I think it's important that we work together. So, I think there's respecting the separate space, and then there's working on an organizational level to plan things where we can support each other. One of the strongest things that happens with Aori and myself, and with Leah McAlliher and myself, where we can support each other in the company. I can give a shout out when Leah or Aori does something. They can give a shout out when I do something, and so if I do a shout out when I do something, then it looks like I'm bragging. So we can sort of shine a light on each other, and I feel like when you build alliances like that, then it makes both sides stronger. So there's I think I'm really trying to encourage that across our employee groups and also within our developer community. But yeah, I think it's a tricky thing in conferences to say, well, how are we going to manage this? So I don't know that I have the exact answer, right? So we went through the process, we talked about it. Those people in that meeting got to represent their entire group, which is, maybe some people do or don't, want to have these parties, but we sort of tried to do it at least the most thoughtful way that we could.
Excellent. I mean, the fact that you all have initiatives like that going on at Salesforce and are able to talk about it and bring that all together and work it out that's a testament of the place where you work at. I mean, that's great. Not a lot of companies are able to even get to that point. So I think that's a great thing. Tell us about Focus 100. Tell us about your experience there. Well, first, if you can let us.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say, if you could tell let our listeners know what Focus 100 is, and then tell us about your experience there.
Sure. So Focus 100 is a conference that is put on by Digital Undivided, Digital Undivided, and it's in New York. This was the third year, I believe, and the last year, turns out. So that was announced on the second day. And so there was a day of sessions and a day of hackathon. And so I attended the day of, with the sessions, but I wasn't able to go to the hackathon. So at the hackathon, they announced that they aren't going to do it again. But Digital Undivided funds startups led by women of color. And so what was neat about the conference is they had the people they had funded last year come back and show, this is the product I built, and this is, the company I'm running, and this is what we do, and they were demoing, and that was what the expo area was focused fellows who had come back to show how they were doing with their company. So very entrepreneurial, startup focused. They build themselves as the most diverse tech conference in the world. And actually, when I told this story before we got on, but talking about websites and perception. So I Focus 100 had come across my feed. I was like, a diverse tech conference. I want to go. Right? So I'd had it on my calendar. It's right before Dreamforce. So I bought the ticket for the Monday. It was on October 3rd. So the Monday of that week, I went and Googled Focus 100. I got something came up and said, Focus 100 tech conference for Black women. And so I said, well, I can't go. And then that was it, right? So that was, boom, that was, pictures like, I'm not welcome here. So I didn't get a ticket. And then on Thursday, I was talking to somebody who I got connected to through somebody I met at a hackathon, talking about, wanting to work more with women who were kind of second career, coming into Salesforce. Anyway, so I got connected, and I'm talking to her on the phone about something else, and she said she was going, and I told her, can't go. And so, what? What? No, you have to go. You have to go. So I'm on the phone with her, 11 o'clock in the morning, and I get off the phone, buy the ticket, clear my whole schedule for Friday, buy the ticket and go, and it was fantastic. So I believe that it started as a tech conference for Black women, again, to create that space that was supportive and safe, and, you knew that everybody who was there was on the same page. And so what was nice about this year is that everybody who was there, even though they weren't all Black women, they were all on the same page. So everyone I talked to, is working towards changing the ratio, working towards stopping the divide, working towards having these conversations at work. They had Maxine Williams from Facebook, head of diversity at Facebook, talking about what are they doing, that's actionable. What are the steps they're taking? And what I learned from her is that she spends time every single day talking to someone who works at Facebook about diversity at Facebook.
Oh, wow.
It's not just one meeting or one bullet point on a slide for our plans for the year, but she is sitting down at lunch talking to the head of this department or that department and just making sure that that message is getting out everywhere in the company. So that's something I took away that I feel like we need to be doing at Salesforce. And so within our affinity groups, we're all talking about it. We're all talking to each other about it, but we're not talking to the broader community. So that's something, that I took away from the conference. I also, they had a session on the importance of networking. And so again, we're creating a space for people to network because that network is really important. And so two women came up who went to college, who I think grew up together, went to college together. Now they're both working in Silicon Valley. They meet once a month for lunch, and, they are each other's mentors, and they can talk about work and help each other grow. It's that kind of network that you want to build. And that was a really interesting conversation. There was another interesting conversation about how search algorithms work. And, I wish I could remember her name. She's a professor. She's researching search algorithms. And, there was some really disturbing search algorithms that she talked about where, these are things that are, and I was telling somebody else about it, and they said, well, I just thought those things bring up the most common thing people have searched for. I'm like, well, yes and no, right? Not exactly. That there's more thought to it than that in those algorithms, and how, your kids could be searching for something and see a little something that you don't want them to see, and how you can make a change in the algorithm and make that not happen. So that was something that's super eye-opening for me because I never really gone through that. So yeah, and I feel like it was just a bunch of people talking about important but sometimes difficult conversation, and the people there who were not Black women, who belong to organizations called things like tech something or other, where it's really white and Asian guy in tech,
Yeah.
Why are we not crossing over? Why are we not reaching out? And I felt like everybody who was there had that mission, and sort of it was a really good conversation. I think it was all recorded, so I'm hoping that they'll put that up on the website. So it's Focus 100.
Excellent. Yeah, what I love about when people take that initiative, and people that are within different cultures, they take that initiative and do what you did. They go ahead and attend conferences that they are not for sure. You didn't really know. You're saying that it was Black women. So, what I like is that this cross-cultural type of experience that we can have, that can actually strengthen our networks as a whole. When people they see Blacks in technology, they automatically assume that they can't join. And I'm just like, no, this is actually for we focused on our group, on our culture, but as a whole, anyone can join, because any information and any knowledge is welcome. The reason behind creating this space is so that we can collectively strengthen our network and strengthen our knowledge base, and strengthen this kind of pipeline of information that people of color have within technology itself. And so that was the main goal, to be able to have a community where we could go and talk about tech, feel comfortable in this space, move around in this space, connect with other people, and but it's not. We don't say, hey, because you're white, because you're Asian, or because you're, anything else, you can't join. You can definitely join, because these cross-cultural exchanges are important for us, and important for our communities, but important for technology as a whole. So I think that's wonderful that you did that, and that other people also showed up to support Focus 100.
Yeah, I feel like one of the things I learned from the Women in Tech work that I was doing is I did a series of blog posts that profiled the women in our developer community. Women, just everyday people, in our developer community, and just got a little bit of their story and their background and what they do, and started posting those on the Salesforce developer relations blog. And the feedback I got some props from women, but I was getting, retweets and feedback from men. I was like, oh, they read my blog post, and they read the whole thing, and it was impactful for them. And one of them, I believe, is listening to us right now, Matt Lacey. So shout out to Matt Lacey, who, always would read the posts and repost or retweet them, and is working, within his community in Australia to mentor women and understand the community there. And I feel like that kind of cross-cultural engagement where, we're helping each other out, it makes it so much stronger. And that is really, I think, the big takeaway for me, is to not put up walls and say, well, only women can be in this conversation, only men can be in this conversation, only African Americans can be in this conversation, and just making sure that we are open to allies. And so, anyway, that was my, kind of really seeing how effective that is, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, think of just the visibility and perception aspect that strengthens, right? Just to So for you to I mean, and it's one of the kind of one of the reasons behind me starting, blogging for Blacks in Technology, having our blog section. The visibility aspect is powerful, and what you're doing by blogging about everyday women in engineering and technology, that visibility, and then you start changing what perception is and changing what people think about when they think about what an engineer or what an engineer looks like or does or things like that. So I think I always encourage people within our community to start blogs. Hey, start blogging about your knowledge and about the things that you do. I think it's a very powerful outlet. I think it's a great way to showcase, talent. I think it's a great way to change, perceptions of what people consider, a quote unquote geek or engineer or computer scientist. So I applaud you definitely on that effort as well. So
yeah, go ahead. When you were introducing Blacks in Technology and visibility and participation and changing perception.
Yeah.
I'm listening on mute, going, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. It's funny because a lot of the stuff I shouldn't say some of the stuff that I do, is totally off of kind of this kind of gut instinct, right? And when I first entered this space of wanting to start an organization like Blacks in Technology, I wasn't as in tune with the statistics per se, and it was just all in my mind of hey, I'm going to these tech conferences. I don't see any other people of color here. It would be nice, for people of color to come to these technology conferences, just for the value of getting the knowledge and the interaction and some of the things that I enjoy going to tech conferences for. And my thought was more along the lines of, well, how come how come Black people aren't coming? How come people of color aren't coming to these tech conferences? Then some of them are not that expensive. As a matter of fact, the one where I had this epiphany was free. Is it because we're not aware? Is it because is it a comfort thing about being comfortable? Maybe they don't understand, or maybe they're not aware that maybe other Black people attend these conferences. So that's kind of where the whole thing of, well, maybe it's just a visibility thing. When I look at the whole entire landscape of technology, and I look and I see, well, maybe this whole thing is, kind of, it's, people want to say it's this or that, or, it's economics or whatever. Maybe a lot of it has to do with, the visibility aspect, and how things are perceived. If you're a young Black kid in the inner city, and you're not seeing anybody who looks like you talk about technology or talk about computers or anything like that, that might deter you from ever jumping into technology or even thinking about it. I always tell a story that my wife's cousin, he went to one of the most prestigious schools in the United States, really. It's, one of the top high schools in the United States.
Where'd you go?
Hey, Mary.
Hi, where did you go?
I don't know. A blip in the matrix.
Uh-oh.
Sorry about that.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we're still live though. It's still kind of recording. I guess it's one of the caveats is that doing a broadcast live is that.
Mm-hmm. Was that our call to get off stage? Was that our signal to get off stage?
Maybe so. I was kind of trying to explain something. But I do want to ask you one last question. What drives you? What is your inspiration? What's your motivation? How do you keep going and doing the wonderful things that you're doing?
Well, there's this woman who drives me who happens to be at home right now, all the way in New Jersey. And, she has been fantastically supportive of all of the work that I'm doing. And she's actually running her own sort of activism campaign within the community. And so we support each other in helping out, like, building community and increasing diversity. And she's working on increasing the inclusion of the Spanish-speaking families in our neighborhood. 20% of the school has families who only speak Spanish at home, and as of last year, hardly anything was going home in Spanish. And now lots of things are going home in Spanish because of her. So, I feel like we have a very aligned outlook on the importance of inclusion, and this is my wife, Noah Lonnie, who we're talking about, and she, we are, I don't know, I think it comes from, being in a group that you can see, what it's like to not be in the majority and to have, you're walking in the world differently. But I feel like even when I was a kid, I don't know, I guess too much folk music listening to, just kind of the whole Pete Seeger, the 60s, that was in the house. And, my parents are kind of square 1950s kids, but, they did grow up during that time, and the music was in my house a lot. And so I feel like I've always been aligned with the civil rights movement. And, had I been a college student in the 60s, I know where I would have been. And so, I don't know, I've just always kind of had that perspective. And I don't know. It's always been something, in terms of women in tech, I've always mentored when I started out. And then, I had some of those, really interesting cross-cultural conversations in my first job. And I can remember the name of the woman who worked there and, had to walk in two worlds. She's, when I go home, I have to, act this way. And when I come to work, I have to act like, this other way. And I can't wear my hair the way I want to. And it's to this, those were really eye-opening conversations. And I think for me, I'm not afraid to have those conversations. I like to sort of, talk about cross-cultural, what's happening and what's it like. And then there's just basic human fairness to it, that we are not in a world that is equal. And so that just gets at me at a really core place where it's just up in there. I want to change that.
I think that's great. I mean, because and from what I gathered from what you were saying is that it's kind of like this something that's inside you, and for instance, kind of like for me, even when before I even started Blacks in Technology, I had the kind of this thing kind of growing inside me where I felt that I wanted to do more, and that just being in technology wasn't enough, right? And even before technology, there was always kind of this thing of kind of teaching and helping people, just within my family, right? And giving people advice that I kind of been through this trial and tribulations, so I kind of can speak on this, and giving people this type of advice that I felt that would help them make better decisions along the way, and then wanted to help them out, and so that they can achieve success in their life and whatever they did, and kind of taking that and me being in technology and saying hey, like this is for me, it's a blessing that I'm able to do what I do every day, and get paid well for doing it, but it's not enough just to be able to do that. I want to be able to help the person behind me and kind of bring them along as well. And if it's not the person behind me, it's the person next to me or whatever, and just be able to help people, help our community achieve success. So I kind of think that's that's what you have in you as well, as you kind of see things from that perspective, and it's kind of like this innate type of thing within us. So
yeah, and I love it when I find that in other people. So I'm, like I didn't know you before this talk, and the folks that I met at Focus 100, yeah, everyone's coming at it, from that core value.
Nice. So, how do people get in contact with you if they want to follow you on Twitter or however?
All right, so my Twitter handle got some.
Yeah, you got to.
So I got some feedback, let's just say, recently about it. But my Twitter handle is RockChick32 2004, and so RockChick spelled like it sounds. That part's obvious, right? What that's for, and then 32 is my field hockey number, and 2004 is the year that Oracle took over PeopleSoft. So that's all you need to remember. RockChick, and then my hockey number, and then the year that Oracle took over PeopleSoft, which you can Google, I'm guessing. So RockChick32 2004 on Twitter. Do follow me and take a look at the people I follow. And if they're not people who look like you, start following them and diversify your feed.
Nice. I like that. Diversify your feed. What else? Oh, real quick. When is Dreamforce happening? Is that next week?
Yes, Dreamforce officially happens from Monday, October 13th through the 16th. And we actually have an event Sunday night. That's a women's networking event, which is sort of our kickoff, Sunday at 6. So that's for my start at Dreamforce Towns. Starts Sunday at 6, and then the doors open at Moscone Center at 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday. That's when the fun starts in the developer zone. So I do hope we have some listeners who are going to be there.
Excellent. So what you're saying is I came to San Francisco at the wrong time. I should have waited. Should have waited for Dreamforce.
You did. Yeah, I know. You should stay. And there's a lot happening. There's the Fleet Week and Dreamforce and something about the Giants, and yeah, there's a lot going on here.
I do know that as PuppetConf was wrapping up, Oracle World that was going on was setting up, and it looked like that is massive as well. But from what I understand, Dreamforce is humongous.
Yes, 100,000 of our closest friends here in the heart of San Francisco.
All right.
Don't get in the car. If you are in San Francisco for the next week, don't try to get in the car. Just walk somewhere or take BART, because the streets are going to be pretty crazy. But if you're an Uber driver, then make sure you're picking up extra hours, because there will be lots of people trying to get somewhere. Yeah, that's what I have to say.
Well, Mary, thank you for joining us this evening. I definitely appreciate you taking time out of your evening to talk with us about diversity and innovation and technology conferences. So with that, I want to wrap this up and say thanks again. And join us next week, Wednesday, 9 p.m. for Founders Hour. It's going to be me and Jill Sparks. We'll be talking with another founder, so that should be interesting. And if you're out in San Francisco, is Dreamforce, is that free, or what is that? Is that
There's a free expo pass that gets you into the kind of campground and expo and some of the keynotes, but does not get you into the developer zone. So that's the thing.
Gotcha.
There's a developer code on the developers. If you Google developers at Dreamforce, there is a discount code for developers.
Excellent.
Check it out.
Great. Well, you know what? I do want to have you on here again. We want to talk about, career stuff. You talked a lot about, product, your journey through your career and the path that you've taken. So maybe we'll have you on later sometime this year or something like that, talk about that and get some inspiration there as well.
Definitely, yeah. I would love to talk about product management and, what, different companies do it differently, but I think there's certain things that are common at the heart of it. So I'd love to talk about that. Thank you so much, Greg, for having me on. It's just,
you're welcome. Thank you.
Timing couldn't get better, and it was great to meet you. So I hope to meet you in person, in real life sometime.
Oh, definitely. Well, you take care, Mary. Thanks a lot again.
All right. You too. Take care.
Bye.
Blacks in Technology.
Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology.